Of all the Witcher school gear sets in the entire game of The Witcher 3, the School of the Viper is the only school to offer 4 swords, 2 steel and 2 silver. All the other Witcher sets, namely Griffin, Ursine, Feline, Wolven and Manticore, only offer 2 swords per school, 1 steel and 1 silver. 2 of the Viper School swords are called Serpentine swords, which are powerful starter level swords found in White Orchard. Perfect for your first few levels up to around level 10. To get maximum benefit, you want to craft these swords well before taking on the Griffin and leaving White Orchard. The Serpentine Silver Sword adds 10% to odd intensity, 10% chance to poison, and 20% bonus experience from monsters, while the Serpentine Steel Sword adds 15% chance to poison and 5% bonus experience from both humans and non-humans. These 2 Serpentine Witcher swords are the only 2 Witcher gear items in the game that can be crafted at an amateur level crafter, and the very first amateur blacksmith you'll come across is located at the Nilfgaardian garrison, to the very northwest of White Orchard. Unfortunately, no Serpentine armor set is available in the game. The 2 Viper Venomous swords are much higher level than the Serpentine pair just mentioned, requiring a minimum level of 39 to use and offering both crit chance and crit damage in addition to the usual chance to poison. Unlike the Serpentine starter swords, the Viper Venomous swords have a full set of matching medium class armor, which possesses the same minimum level requirement of 39. The main advantages Viper gear offers over all other Witcher gear is the ability to deal poison damage via all 4 swords, as well as offering immunity to all incoming poison damage when wearing all pieces of the Viper armor set. The full 6-piece Viper Venomous gear set is exclusive to the Hearts of Stone expansion, and can only be acquired by taking specific actions during its main story. Failing to make the correct choices during certain events will render the gear unobtainable for the rest of the playthrough, but more on that later. To begin, we'll head over to White Orchard to locate the diagrams for the 2 Serpentine starter swords. In the wooded lands directly west of the ransacked village, just southeast of where Vesemir was injured by the Griffin, you'll find an unmarked location, called the Amavet Fortress Ruins. The ruins are perched up high upon an embankment, which initially proves impossible to scale. The only way to gain access is via a fallen brick wall located toward the southern end of the site, just off the pathway which leads to the ford. Carefully traverse up the sloping wall, and when you reach the top, jump across the gap to climb up onto a wooden platform, allowing you to enter the crumbling tower of the fortress itself. Before you can freely explore the ruins, you'll first need to dispatch 4 Temerian deserters that don't take kindly to your intrusion of their temporary raiding camp. As usual, prioritise taking down ranged attackers first by rolling or sprinting toward them before they can fire off too many shots. Counter-attack or dodge foes using single-handed weapons, and simply dodge foes using 2-handed weapons to create openings. For some strange reason, they halt their attack if you stand on this brick section of the ruin. Once they've all been cut down, loot the angrily scrawled notes found on the floor of the collapsing tower, which expresses the frustration of the band of deserters. The wooden chest along the eastern wall houses the Serpentine Steel Sword diagram, as well as an interrogation report involving a Witcher named Colgrim from the School of the Viper. Colgrim was tasked with finding the 2 lost Serpentine diagrams that once belonged to his order. Eventually, Colgrim managed to find the diagrams, but ran into unexpected problems during his journey back to the school's keep. Colgrim intended to rest for one night while passing through a small village in White Orchard. However, during his brief stay, he was wrongly accused by the local peasants of kidnapping a young boy named Viti, the son of the local beekeeper. Only after his torture and death was it later discovered that drowners were responsible for the boy's disappearance, of which Colgrim played no part, proving his innocence. Before his death, Colgrim's trial by ordeal was to cleanse the local lordling's family crypt of tormented spirits, something Colgrim did not foresee as a difficult task. Sadly, it would seem that the wraiths and evil powers residing therein proved too much for him. Never emerging from the crypt, it became evident that this was to be his final place of rest. The haunted cemetery of the Verrieres family, where Colgrim's remains still lie, is your next destination. To the north end of White Orchard, just northwest of the mill signpost, you'll find a place of power situated directly in the middle of the cemetery in question. Upon arrival, you'll notice humming emanating from the glowing stone of Igni. As you draw closer, expect a spectral ambush as a belligerent wraith appears, attempting to give you the same fate as your witcher brethren. The wraith has two forms, material and ethereal. You can only damage the wraith while it's in material form, so to prevent it from transforming into its ethereal form, make sure to use the Yrden sign often. Spectre oil and the Quen sign will also be effective if you're experiencing difficulty, but a simple tactic of timing your dodge to create openings is all that's really needed. Destroy the fragile chapel door using a blast of Ard, then descend down the stone steps into the crypt below. After dealing with a second wraith, which materialises within the crypt, examine Colgrim's skeletal remains slumped up against the eastern wall. Within the bag it still holds, you'll find the crafting diagram for the Serpentine silver sword, which upon gathering concludes the scavenger hunt quest for the 2 Serpentine swords. An interesting rumour is also heard around White Orchard that the local peasants who scapegoated the Witcher in the first place actually beheaded him and placed his remains in the crypt as a cover for the murder.
Me gran told me about the Smith's boy.
Don't you
Lad
look
went
at
missing
me.
one day, so folk nabbed a witchman that was hunting nearby. Started poking him, asking. Well, he started twisting and squirming, so wham bam, they knocked his head off.
Give me a
Oh, so it
slingshot.
worked.
It's got to have some drowner that had sapped on the kid. Witcher had naught to do with it. What did the folk do? Take like they could have sewed his head back on. Word is they laid his corpse to rest.
This may explain why Colgrim's skull is no longer attached to his body when you examine his skeletal remains. Sadly, the truth will never be known. You'll also find a letter written by Colgrim just before his unexpected demise, addressed to his master, hinting there are more powerful Viper School diagrams to find across these lands, obviously referring to the 6-piece Viper Venomous set, which we'll cover in depth right now. As previously mentioned, the full 6-piece level 39 Viper Venomous gear set is exclusive to the Hearts of Stone expansion and can only be acquired by taking specific actions during its main storyline. During the early stages of the main quest named Open Sesame, you'll be taken to the Borsodi Brothers auction house, which is located to the northern end of the Redanian city Oxenfurt. Just outside, you'll find 2 Redanian soldiers guarding the premises, preventing anyone without a written invitation from entering.
Order 76 CWX is clear. Auctions only open to folk with invitations. Writ out in their names, plain and simple.
Luckily for Geralt, his friend Vimy Vivaldi, who runs Vivaldi Bank in Hierarch Square, shows up, managing to convince the soldiers to give Geralt unrestricted access to the auction floors.
Are you squabbling with my pal Geralt?
Master Vivaldi, sir, your esteemed associate, he weren't invited to the auction, and I've...
But I plough and have been, and he's coming with me. In you go, Geralt.
Once inside, you'll have the optional objective to meet 3 of Vimy's friends. The one that piques your interest is a lady of a certain age, and one that instantly recognises your Witcher medallion. Being a keen collector of objects related to the Witcherly profession, ask her where she developed this interest.
Mind if I ask how the Countess became interested in us, humble monster slayers?
I've some pleasant associations, dating from my oh-so-distant youth.
This then gives you the option to trade with her, albeit in agreement with Vimy's 5% finder's fee. She offers crafting diagrams for the Viper armour, gauntlets, trousers and boots for 295 crowns apiece. Make sure to buy them all, as this is the only chance in the entire game to acquire them. It's also a wise idea to buy any superior alchemy formulas she may have for sale, saving you the hassle of finding them later. The Countess hopes you might use your preternatural abilities to help locate her missing earring, which she dropped on the external balcony nearby. You soon realise she has an ulterior motive for asking you outside. She wishes to learn more about a man she once knew with tenderness.
It was the winter of 1234. A beast prowled the streets of Oxenford. A fledder, I believe. A contract was issued, a notice posted, and a witcher appeared. Vesemir, of the School of the Wolf. He came through our estate, tracking the beast. Our eyes met. Something sparked. I wrote him a message, asked my governess to deliver it. He visited, under the cover of night, night after night. On one such occasion, my father heard something. Vesemir had to flee. So quickly he left behind his gambeson.
Ah, the first piece. The start of your collection.
Yes, but also the end of our love. Father had an arrest warrant issued, then quickly married me off. I was fortunate. My husband died young, leaving me a sizable fortune. And thus, I have lived on memories.
Vesemir's fine. The picture of health, and he still wears a mustache.
I'm relieved to hear it. And, did he ever find a mate?
No, haven't seen him with a woman in 5 decades. Me and the other Witchers, we often wondered what his story was.
A pity. A pity our story didn't end differently. I should have ridden out after him. Please don't mention me when next you see him. I've reopened my own wounds. That's enough.
If you're into collecting Gwent cards, then it's also a good idea to speak with Vimmy's friend Hilbert, standing nearby, leaning against the snack table. Beating Hilbert in a game of Gwent will reward you with a neutral siege Gwent card called Gaunt O'Dim. Finally, when the auction starts proper, the first item up for sale will be Count Romilly's figurine. Make sure to buy this item for the final price of 300 crowns. With this brass figurine in your possession, you'll be able to begin the Hearts of Stone exclusive treasure hunt named A Dark Legacy, which also involves killing a rare monster called an Ancient Leshen. This is one of the rare moments you'll be able to acquire the Ancient Leshen mutagen, required for crafting the Ancient Leshen decoction. Next up, we have the Viper Venomous Steel Sword diagram, which can only be acquired during the closing stages of the same main quest, Open Sesame. The culmination and battle of the Borsodi brothers should now have ended, leaving you in the large basement vault of the Borsodi auction house. Along the eastern wall, just left of the small round table where Maximilian's house was located, you'll find an open chest crammed full of valuables. Looting this chest will reward you with the Viper Venomous Steel Sword diagram, the only chance in the entire game. If both Borsodi brothers are dead, you'll need to press the pressure plate located on the left pillar, which slides open a stone wall to the south of the basement, allowing you to exit via a secret underground tunnel. Make sure to loot everything from both rooms in the vault before leaving, as once you reach topside, the main exit will be permanently barred, blocking return access for the rest of the game. To craft the Viper Venomous gear set, you'll need to visit a master level craftsman, such as Hattori in Novigrad for weapons, Joanna in Velen for armour, or Lazare Lafargue in Toussaint for everything. As with most rare ingredients, if you don't have any cured Draconid leather in your possession, and you want to save the 400 crowns for buying some, then you can craft it yourself by locating it under the crafting components submenu, for just 78 crowns in crafting costs, assuming you have the materials. Finally, we have the Viper Venomous Silver Sword, which is the final 6th piece of the Viper Venomous set. But unlike all the other items, it does not have an associated crafting diagram, and therefore cannot be crafted. You'll need to find and pick up the actual physical sword itself, and the only chance to do this is at the conclusion of the Hearts of Stone main storyline. When you eventually get there, you'll enter a circular temple overlook with views of the Pontar River, where ironically, sacrifices were performed to the moon. After night falls, Gaunt O'Dim, aka Master Mirror, makes an impressive entrance from above.
So glad to see everyone's made it. How do you feel, Von Everick? A little less troubled? Lighter on the heart?
He reveals that Olgierd's contract has been fulfilled, as they now stand on the moon to complete the pact. Another trick from this master of deception.
What? No. We had a pact. The moon is there. There! Not here.
I gave you what you wished for. Here, on the moon, our contract you fulfill.
Horse. You cheated me.
You're now given an option to help Olgierd and thus prevent his soul from being consumed by Gaunter O'Dim. You'll then be thrown into a dark, mysterious realm, a riddle of master mirrors which must be solved. Only in this one-time realm can you find and take the Viper Venomous silver sword. I've created a separate, dedicated guide called The Only Two Witcher Swords You Can't Craft, which I've linked up top on the cards as well as in the description below. This guide demonstrates the quickest route to the Venomous Silver Sword, as well as the best path through the entire maze, which also includes looting all riches from the cave. It also gives full details on how to get the only other Witcher sword in the entire game that can't be crafted, and as a bonus will scale to Geralt's level upon pickup, so is effective the moment you pick it up.